Okay, so welcome to the lecture on birds and mammals within subphylum Vertebrata, phylum Chordata, kingdom Animalia. Some folks still classify birds under the class level called aves. Let me put that in here. Actually, let me give you a new box. Again, some groups, older references will go class aves. Others are moving them into reptilia because birds are reptiles. So depends on the reference, depends on the age of the reference, the resource, etc., what the actual class level is. I'm not worried about you guys knowing a class level. I'm more concerned about you knowing what makes a bird a bird. What features are required to say, okay, this is a bird versus a reptile versus a ancestor, etc. All right, so when we're talking about birds, there are two key features I want you to be comfortable with at this level of classification. Make sure you know what makes an animal, chordata, vertebrata, a vertebrata, but then what makes a bird different from the amphibians we talked about, the chondrichthyes, the fish, the osteichthyes or bony fish, the reptiles, what makes a bird different than a mammal. So again, these two big key features are what we want to highlight here as the kind of the main things that make birds unique. And the big one, the first one, what we're looking at here, feathers. Feathers are simply modified scales. They're derivatives of the reptilian scale, and they're composed of a polysaccharide called keratin. So when we look at birds, we see these feathers. Now, feathers are used to provide lift in flight. So the wing feathers of a pigeon or a pheasant or an eagle, whatever bird you want to imagine. And they're also used to help conserve heat. They hold heat in, keeping the birds warm. So you got this dual purpose structure that enables birds to adapt to a particular ecological niche and adapt to their particular lifestyle. So that's feature number one, feathers. Second feature is birds have a very unique skeleton. Call it the flight skeleton. First thing to mention is they have these hollow and very lightweight bones. So if you guys, I encourage you, get a chicken leg, get a whole chicken from the grocery store. Chicken is more than just nuggets. The nuggets are actually the scrap pieces of most processed chicken that they shove together. So when you go to drive through and you get chicken nuggets, you're getting leftover chicken pieces that can't be used for anything else typically. So anyway, get a actual chicken and look at the bones. Pick up that bone, compare it to the bone of a bone that came out of a piece of steak, or if you guys have a whole ham in the house and you have the bone in the ham, very different. Bird bones, thinner or lightweight, hollow. They're still strong, very, very strong, but the way the bone structure is built, it is much lighter, it just has simply less mass if you compare the same size chicken bone to the same size bone of another animal, especially a mammal, lightweight. The other big thing that we'll see is this thing called a keeled breastbone. So they have this breastbone structure that keeled means it's kind of pointed upward. So that's the structure right here. So again, if you have a chicken from the grocery store, like a whole chicken, you can even get them already cooked, and you're looking at that chicken, lay it on its back, that bone sticking up in the center of the chest, that's the keeled breastbone. That allows for the attachment of, flight muscles. So the big breast muscles in birds, those are used for flight. They'll also have this thing called a furcula. So there's a fancy word for you if you guys are having dinner with your friends or family. Furcula, that's the wishbone. That also provides attachment for muscle groups for flight muscles. So those are the two big key features I want you to remember about birds when we look at what makes a bird a unique organism compared to a mammal, a reptile, an amphibian, and the two main groups of fish we talked about. Now, bird evolution, we can go back about 150 million years. You know, we talked about those dinosaurs a little bit during reptiles, and we talked about the theropods. Birds evolved from the theropod dinosaurs roughly in this 150 million year window. And about 56 million years ago, we had the big boom, the fifth mass extinction, the Cretaceous calamity, in which 80–90% of life on Earth got wiped out. This is when the dinosaurs got wiped out from that asteroid or meteor hitting the Earth. And that just decimated the Earth ecosystems, but birds survived. Birds had the features necessary to survive, and they started to increase in diversity. There were no dinosaurs around to compete against. Birds evolved. Birds diversified significantly about 56 million years ago. So I want you guys to think about it. How big of a difference is there between an ostrich and some of those early theropod dinosaurs? You think evolutionarily, what does it take? What little changes and tweaks does it take to move from this guy eventually, and we're talking millions of years, this isn't an overnight thing, but to move towards bird species like this, right? So it happened. It's the evidence is there, all right? So we have the evidence for it. So when we're looking at birds today, modern birds, the two big things that help us identify what a bird does, its job, its life cycle, are the beak and feet. The beak of the bird tells you what it eats. Is that bird going to be an omnivore, an herbivore, a carnivore, etc.? So when we talk about ecological roles, looking at the beak of the bird can tell us, is that bird a carnivore? So you look at raptors, hawks, eagles, things like that. The way their beak overlaps, that tells us that bird is a carnivore. If the bird has a short, stout beak that can crack seeds, that tends to tell us it's most likely an herbivore. Okay, so you think about all the different birds out there, and all the beak shapes are different. So please do not say, oh, well, we need a carnivore. Well, it's a bird. Which type of bird? I've never seen a hummingbird eat a rabbit. So you need to get more specific and think about the beak structure. The feet, they also help indicate the lifestyle. Ecological niche. Is that bird's foot going to enable that bird to grab prey? Does it swim in the water? Does it use its claws or talons to kill, etc.? All those traits identify what the bird does. So two big features that help us figure out ecological niche of the birds here. So, all right, now when we look at the respiratory system, phenomenal. Their respiratory system is unbelievable. It is very, very efficient. It can exchange gases very efficiently. So when we look at the lungs of the bird, they have additional structures called these air sacs. It just increases surface area for more oxygenation or exchange of oxygen, carbon dioxide when we look at the respiratory system. Okay, so I want you guys to think about this as we get into the next one, the circulatory system. How many chambers do fish have in their heart? How many chambers do amphibians have? How many chambers do reptiles have? Well, with birds, what we're seeing are 4-chambered hearts. So, significant amount of separation between oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. So the more chambers in your heart, the more you're going to be efficient in exchanging gases with your respiratory system, moving blood, so you don't have oxygenated and deoxygenated blood mixing together because you have these 4 chambers. This is just like the human heart, top, bottom, right, left, etc. So you pump out deoxygenated blood to your lungs. They have that incredible respiratory system, brings back oxygenated blood to the other side of the heart, moves it out to the body. So you're separating it. Having an increased and efficient circulatory system increases your metabolism. So huge benefit here when you have 4 chambers to your heart with your metabolism, your metabolic rate, all those things. So here's just kind of the crazy, stupid fact. Hummingbirds, their heartbeat is roughly, let me put it in here. This is one of those little trivia questions that you guys can stick in the memory banks for when you're on a trivia show. Their heartbeat can be up to 600 times per minute. That is just insane. Think about when we exercise and get all worked up and excited, and what's your heartbeat moving up to? 120, 140. You guys are young, healthy, active, the athletes, 170, 185. 600 a minute for a hummingbird. That's just insane to think about. Right? All that's because of that respiratory system, the metabolic rate, 4-chambered heart, etc. So, okay, other feature also to mention about birds. Birds are endothermic. So this means internal body temperature. They can maintain an internal, let me put maintain in there. They can maintain an internal body temperature. So this is a huge thing when you look at their activity and their lifestyle. They can be active year-round. The bald eagle sitting out there in the snowstorm. The ducks and the geese on the frozen pond. There's Lake Springfield. They're sitting there when it's 12 degrees out. They're okay because their internal body temperature, and then also the feathers that keep them warm. So what I want you guys to think about, dig into this a little bit, especially those who are interested in ecology and this side of our discipline. These ducks and geese, the ducks are standing on ice and they're swimming around in water that is freezing cold. How come their feet don't freeze? I'm not going to encourage anybody to do this, but imagine if you walked out there barefoot and stood on that ice or put your feet in the water. What's going to happen to your toes? Yet it doesn't happen to ducks and geese and certain birds. What's the difference? Okay, so birds are a very cool group. Anybody interested in it, I encourage you, go out to the Lincoln Land bird banding station and explore that. You get some hands-on experience. It's a great way to learn more about this particular group of vertebrates that are chordates, that are animals. Okay, next part of the lecture, we're going to talk about the mammals.